How is transgender ideology affecting lesbians and lesbian spaces?
It's convinced many girls who would have formerly defined themselves as lesbians in schools that because they're same-sex attracted, they should transgender and become trans boys, and that it's only acceptable to have same-sex attraction in sort of a pseudo heterosexual relationship, if you like. So that's that. There are a lot of lesbians who have who are same-sex attracted, who have transitioned. Fortunately now some of them are detransitioning, and they're speaking out about that as well. But the other thing is that, I mean, lesbians have really been at the forefront of fighting the trans agenda, if you like, and we've really been attacked and focused on as by men who are saying that they are lesbians, cross-dressing men who say that they are lesbians, to have sex with them and so on, because being lesbian, we're the sort of main group that tells men that they can't have sexual access to their bodies, and they just can't stand that. So that there's in the sort of the woke transgender community, there's a whole, you know, lesbians should be having sex with men who say they're lesbians. So that's another big issue, particularly for younger lesbians who feel that they should define themselves as queer and should be open to these sexual approaches. And just in terms of lesbian-only space, we've lost a lot of lesbian-only space. But when we first had a radical feminist conference way back in 2012, and it was attacked by trans activists, and again, this was a conference which was mainly organised by lesbians, we did get a legal opinion which remains valid today, which says as lesbians we are entitled to assemble and to exclude anyone else we want to exclude. We are entitled to do that under the Human Rights Act and human rights generally. So we do that. I mean, we do assemble and we do have meetings, but we do generally have to keep them secret. I mean, we have a lesbian history group, for example, but we don't widely publicize where we hold our meetings, because even though we can legally organize as lesbians, we know we will be attacked by trans activists if we open out our publicity to everyone. So that's the sort of thing, those are the sort of things that have been happening to lesbian spaces, and all sorts of things have been taken away from us. We've got, for those of us in London, we've got a women's pond, which has always been a very particular haunt of lesbians on Hampstead Heath. But the City of London, which controls it, has said that should be open to men who define as women. So there's all sorts of spaces, women-only spaces, that have been taken away from us as lesbians like that. And all of these things, although there's positive developments in the UK, we will have to actually fight to get all the things that have been taken over and policy captured in that way.
Is that no one of my lesbian friends really believe this shit, that trans women are women, or that trans lesbian are all this shit. But the point is that all organizations here they do not want, and maybe they do not can have a total independent organization because of money. You know, you do know we are a poor country, so it's very hard, very, very hard to do things here without, you know, money of these big organizations like Open Society Foundation, or without the money of a party, without the power of a party. So the point is, if you have an organization here of lesbians, I mean, they are so harassed, so violent harassed by trans activists and these handmaids, this liberal feminists, and this male from the left, I mean, to accept trans women, is that it's such a hell. We have this organization, this lesbian organization here, it's Brejeiras. And on the day of transgender visibility last year, they put the picture of a trans lesbian from a left party here. And we got very pissed, of course. But the point is, if they do not do this, they will never get any money to help lesbians, to do research, to try to ameliorate laws, they will never have money. They're going to depend on their own money. And it's impossible. So here money is really an issue.
Read and heard that lesbian spaces, including lesbian bars across the United States, are virtually non-existent anymore. There's a place in my neighborhood that is nominally a lesbian space. And when I walk by it, all I see are trans-identified men hanging out there. The other thing I would just want to say is that we have several organizations in the United States who are also extremely well-funded. Many of you may know about the Human Rights Campaign. It is nominally for LGBT, and it consists almost entirely of straight and gay men, mostly straight and gay white men, who fought very hard for marriage equality in the US and won, which is a very good thing. But then when marriage equality was won, it turned completely to the gender identity agenda, and it pushes it very strongly. And we have another organization called the National Center for Lesbian Rights, which is a legal organization, but it also is pushing the gender identity agenda. So I think in the US, the L has essentially become nominal in the LGBT acronym.
Well, it's absolutely the same in the Netherlands, because we have an organization called the COC, which is supposed to be an organization for lesbians, homosexuals, bisexuals, but it's completely taken over by the transgenders. And so especially the lesbians have problems with that. And they have they're homeless in the Netherlands. In way of an organization that stands up for their rights, but also politically homeless, because there's no political party for women or for lesbians that really knows what should be done, and that's standing up for them. So I think it's a very bad situation, and probably here is the same like on Tinder and or I don't know what websites there are and apps, but there are 70% men pretending to be women on the dating apps.
One of the things that if you're here and you're not linked up with people in your country, with women in your country, then, and you can't find out how to, you can send an email to us on the website, womensdeclaration.com, to info@womensdeclaration.com. And we've got country contacts in quite a lot of countries, like about 30, so we can put you in touch with them, or we can try to find a way to link you up with other gender critical women in your country.
I will speak on my behalf of lesbians in my circles. One of the reasons how we met was actually one of the women from Terre Des Femmes. So she is part of Terre Des Femmes. She called out in that circle, so about we're independent critical group. So we had a presentation there, thankfully, to kind of call out for that problem. And I refer to what she summed up there. So problem number one is the dating websites, as Caroline, I think, just said it, like loads of men who claim to be women on a lesbian website. It goes so far that even no matter how you feel about it, if you have some kind of sex parties with women only, you might find yourself with a man involved, which is kind of contradicting to the very idea. You have a lot of peer pressure, particularly on the younger lesbians, to accept and tolerate men. Otherwise, they would be transphobic. The other thing is very visible, that more and more lesbian places shut down or become more and more some kind of community, like the Lesbian Spring, Lesben Frühling. There's been one in Göttingen, one in Cologne. The one in Cologne last year had quite the uproar because there was one group who wanted a specific, I think it was a Red 10 thing. I don't nail me down on that one. But they had a specific women-only workshop, got called out, and it was a huge drama. They got doxxed, and it was and they didn't even have a chance to defend themselves. So for lesbians, the situation has become very dire.
There is a very strong lesbian organisation in Germany called SAFIYA, which has existed since 1986 or 84, and that reaches out to other lesbians and has a lot of lesbian houses that you can go and stay out and everything. I don't know how much it publicises itself, but it's just to say that this, when we went to visit it, we were amazed about how long this organisation had been going and what it was actually providing for lesbians, and still providing for lesbians, as I understand it, you know, going to stay at lesbian houses, holiday houses and so on.